All right, this is the video that I am most excited to make, that I have been talking about in my previous videos that I've filmed today. But this is the big life update video slash fire plan update video, and I will not keep you guys in suspense. We will talk about the good news first, and then I'm going to talk about how this changes my fire timeline and the plan for me in reaching financial independence and retiring early going forward. Y'all know, if you've been with me for a while, that my plan has changed several times at this point, but that's life, you know? Life changes, and then you've got to update your plan accordingly, whether or not you're pursuing fire to, you know, financial independence and retire early. Just life in general is dynamic, and you got to be flexible and roll with the punches. But in this case, I have some great news. Y'all know I just got back from a 2-week trip to Sweden, and I had a wonderful time over there. My husband Christopher rented a summer cabin for us that we were in for 6 days. It was so nice. It was beautiful there, you guys. I spent a lot of time just enjoying the ocean, fishing a bit, swimming some. It was great. But the big news is we found and bought a forever home in Sweden. Yeah, this was not something that we were planning on doing on this trip over. This is just a series of events that played out in our favor and happened. And also, let me just clarify, when I say we, I really mean he's the one that bought this house. And sure, I would like for my name to be on the property, and maybe we will do that someday, but for simplicity's sake, I do not have a Swedish person number, which is essentially like a social security number for people here who are US citizens. So it would have complicated things to get my name on the property, first of all, but secondly, we're married. It's not a big deal. I really, while I would like for my name to be on there, it's fine. I'll give you guys the whole story of how this ran down because everything happened so quickly. It was crazy. But first, the details on the property itself. And I want to play a little bit of a game with you guys. So I'm going to give you the specs of this property, and I will share some pictures of it with you in this video. And I want you guys to guess at the end of the details here how much you think this property sold for, how much you think that we paid for it. And yeah, so to start with here, the house that we found is roughly 1,000 square feet. It is 2-bedroom, 1 bath, built in 2011, if I'm remembering correctly, so a pretty new build. It has a double garage. It has solar panels. It has underfloor heating. I mean, the inside looks really nice, but the greatest thing about this property is that it has a full 1/4 mile of lake frontage with it, and it's almost 30 acres of property, you guys. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. It has its own dock. It has a covered picnic area down by the water. It is everything I could have ever dreamed for in a forever home. And I know that, you know, y'all might not believe in manifesting and some of this woo-woo stuff that I talk about occasionally on the channel, but I'm telling you, I have got my vision board behind the camera here, and we have legitimately manifested one of the things that I had pictured on the vision board, which was a nice home with a view, and just being on the water is a bonus. So that's the big good news that I am so excited to share with you guys. So let me know down in the comment section below how much you think that this home sold for. I'll give you just a second to think about that while I also tell you that this home is pretty rural. It is not near the big cities in Sweden, which is kind of the main driver for how expensive properties are there. Once you get outside of the major cities like Gothenburg and Stockholm, then real estate is quite reasonable. So yeah, I hope you commented your guess down below, and when I tell you what we paid for it, then reply to your comment and yeah, let me know how shocked you are. So easily, for North Carolina standards here, if you had a home that was equivalent to this one, easily you would pay over $1 million, probably $1.5 million at least. So my husband paid for this house, and he paid $355,000. Y'all, it's insane, the Swedish property over there, Swedish real estate. It is just so different from here. And that was one of the big factors that made us decide to fire in Sweden versus firing in the United States. One, the real estate, we knew that we could find a place like this and not have to spend a ton of money to have our dream forever home together. And yes, taxes are higher in Sweden. Yes, things are more expensive, but you do have healthcare covered there. Yeah, there's just a lot of things that made us decide that Sweden was the place for us in the long term. And now I actually have a place to go to whenever I'm ready to immigrate over after I hit my fire number. This is just such a relief for me mentally to be able to just close my eyes and think about being at this place and know exactly what it looks like in my mind's eye. And not only is it peace of mind, but it is also a huge motivator to keep me going on this fire journey, especially now that I am working 2 full-time jobs. So the quick rundown of how we found this house and how it came into our possession, because this happened a lot faster than what either one of us would have thought. And I will timestamp this video down in the comment section below if you'd like to skip any of this and just get to the part about how this is going to change my fire journey. I will timestamp that too down below. Anyway, so we had kind of been casually keeping an eye out for a dream home property in Sweden, and yeah, we hadn't really seen anything that ticked all of our boxes, but we did while my husband was visiting me here in the States, and we liked a place enough to actually make a bid on it. It was not the house that we got. It was a different property, but we made a bid on it. And the bidding process over in Sweden for a home, it's kind of like how an auction works here in the US. So, you know, the price just ran up on that one that we found more than what we were willing to pay for it. Kind of knowing what other properties in the area had sold for, we just felt like it went up too high for us. So we missed out on that one. But while I was visiting over in Sweden, we kept an eye on properties that came available, and this one popped up, and we both really liked the look of it. And I mean, we thought it was perfect, and it is pretty damn near perfect for everything that we would like. I know that perfect doesn't quite exist. We do wish the house was a little bit bigger and it had kind of more of an office space for Christopher, but you know, otherwise it's perfect. So we decided to go see it and decided to make a bid on it. The house had been listed for a month. I don't know how it did not sell before we got to go see it, but it hadn't. I do think the pictures for the property could have been better, and we realized some of the information about the listing was incorrect after we went to go see the place, so maybe that played into it a little bit too. But anyhow, we went to see the place in person, loved it. And afterwards, we were actually sitting at a McDonald's having some food and debating about what offer we should put in for the place. So the listing was listed at 3.85 million Swedish crowns. And after seeing the place, you know, we were debating back and forth whether or not just to put in a cash offer, because we're not going to have a mortgage on this place. Do we put in a cash offer at what they're asking or just a little bit below? And We did decide to go a little bit below what they were asking because as amazing as this place is, it does need some work, you guys. The fields are way overgrown. There's starting to be a lot of little trees coming up that are growing in the fields that are going to need to be bush hogged or cut down. There's some work to be done. The property does have a dock out in the lake, but there's very tall reed grass that's growing up around the dock. And for me, who likes to go fishing, you really couldn't fish from the dock right now as the place currently is, because there's so much reed grass around there that anytime you threw a line out, you would lose your hook because it would get stuck in all of this reed grass. So there's work to be done around the property to really get it into tip-top shape. And some of the trees are starting to grow up high enough that it's going to block the view eventually from the house to the lake. So yeah, there's some work to be done on the property, which is fine, but it made us debate whether we should actually put in a cash offer at what they're asking or go a little bit below. And so considering all the work that needed to be done, considering that it had already been listed for a month on the broker's website, we decided to put in an offer a little bit below what they were asking. So Christopher put in an offer at 2.7 million Swedish crowns. And you know, we thought, okay, at this point, it's just a waiting game, because the broker told us as she was showing us around the property that there was another person who wanted to come view the property, and they were supposed to come that same day that we were there. We were there on a weekend, but they had called her and had to cancel for the weekend viewing, and they had scheduled it for the following Wednesday. And yeah, so at this point, after we put in our bid, we thought for sure this is going to be a waiting process, and you know, they'll want to see what the other person thinks of the property. And sure enough, the broker submitted our bid, and she let them know, you know, that, hey, this is an all cash offer for the place. It could be closed upon quickly. And initially she told us that when she talked to the sellers, that they did want to, you know, wait to see what the other person thought of the property. And we were okay with that. So at that point, we were driving back home, and we thought, all right, well, this will be a few more days for us to wait to see what the other person thinks of the property and if they put in a bid. And, you know, honestly, I think both of us were kind of thinking like, oh, this place is going to run up in price just like the other place that we looked at. So I was in my heart of hearts trying to not get too attached to this property. And yeah, we were driving back home, and y'all, this was the day before I was supposed to fly back home to North Carolina. So all of this was being done like very last minute on my trip. And about 30 minutes later, we were still driving home. Christopher got another message from the broker that said, hey, this husband and wife, they spoke with each other about the offer that we submitted and the fact that it was a cash offer and everything. And they said if we would come up to 2.775 million Swedish crowns, that they would accept our offer and not even bother showing it to the other person that wanted to come see it in a few days. So, yeah, so they wanted an extra, essentially about $7,000 for our offer. It was still less than what the listing was posted for, but because it was an all cash offer and we could close quickly, they decided to just strike while the iron was hot. So really, Christopher and I were both floored that they came back with that counter offer, because honestly, we thought that if anything, they would at least say, you know, come up to what we're asking for the property. And there was also a tractor and a boat on the property. And so we thought, okay, well, if they come back and say, okay, give us what we're asking for the property, then maybe we could negotiate either the tractor or the boat for the property in coming up in price and all of that. But no, they came back with a counter offer that was still less than what the listing was listed for. And so we just accepted. we accepted, and I flew home the next morning, and Christopher went the same day that I flew home to go sign all of the paperwork for this property. So we were both just speechless, floored. I still am, obviously, because neither one of us expected it to go this quickly, and we're so excited. I just know what I am working so hard for now. And of course, you know, I had always had this sort of mental vision for a place like this in my head, as far as what my post-fire lifestyle would look like in Sweden. But now I actually know the place. I know exactly what it's going to look like, and this place is just amazing, you guys. My entire life, I have always lived in a place that had so much noise. America is just in general is so noisy. Even my childhood home growing up was on a busy road, and I lived out in very rural southern Appalachia, but the road that I lived on was busy enough that it was never quiet. And even in my adult life, as I have moved closer to the Charlotte area and lived all around this area during my adult life and moved several times, I've always dealt with like traffic noise and road noise and just the busyness of the city in general. I am so ready to be at a place like this. There is no traffic noise. The road in front of the house is a gravel road. It is state maintained though, which was a big plus. But there's just a couple other houses on the road with us. It is so rural. It's so quiet. The whole time I was there walking around the property, looking at the place, we didn't even see a boat out on the lake. This is going to be the perfect place, the absolute perfect place for me to just decompress for as long as I need to after I do get to fire. Working 2 full-time third shift jobs is going to be incredibly hard. It just is. But I know deep down that it's not really about the money. It's about time. Time is our most valuable asset. And knowing that I have this light at the end of the tunnel waiting for me once I get to fire, I really think that I can push through and do what I need to do to work these 2 jobs to get to fire faster. So that brings us to how this new development is going to shorten my fire timeline. Now that we know where we're going to be long-term together in Sweden, the place is bought and paid for essentially at the time I'm filming this video. We're not going to have a mortgage. It's easier for us now to really calculate the numbers and figure out what we need in order to be fire together. So if you've been with me for a while on the channel, then you know that for a long time now, I have always kept an eye out for a second job for me to work. So the whole second job is not because we found this property. I've been wanting a second job for a long time, and it's just been difficult to find a second position for me that would work with the hours that I had at my current job. But now my hours have changed at my current job, and I was able to find, luckily enough, a weekend third shift position that came open close by my house now. So my schedule change that happened at my primary job, I used to work Tuesday, Thursday, Friday nights. They changed my schedule to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is very helpful because that leaves Friday, Saturday, Sunday open for me to look for another job. There's a lot of those type jobs around. And I got lucky in that one of those popped up in the hospital that's pretty close by where I live. So that's the one that I took. So I will be working now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at my primary job, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at this new second job. And it's also third shift, 12-hour shifts. I'm going to be working 72 hours a week. And I'll only have Monday nights off. So now that we have this forever home nailed down, we kind of came up with a rough plan for my fire timeline going forward. Of course, I have to caveat all of this, you guys. My fire timeline, my fire number, everything has changed so many times over the years. But this really seems like a pretty concrete plan for us. And here's what it is. So if you're a channel member, you know what my fire net worth number is. Now, I don't think with this new plan that I am actually going to be able to hit that number before I declare myself FI. And that's just going to have to be okay, we've decided, because time is getting too short. Honestly, this property is so huge. Like, Christopher would have never bought this property just for himself because it is so much work. So, you know, in a way, he kind of needs me to come over to help with maintaining this property. This is 30 acres of land, and I am more than excited to help out with this property. Y'all know, if you've been with me for a long time, before I moved to this small house where I live now, I have 0.3 acres here. The house I had before out in rural North Carolina was almost 5 acres, and I was maintaining that myself. So it was a lot of work, and this new property that we have over in Sweden is way too much work for one person, really. So we just need to go ahead and pull the trigger. I will do the best that I can to up my numbers as much as I possibly can for the next couple of years, but I am probably not going to hit that fire number that the channel members know what it is. So the most simple way that I can sum up my fire plan right now is this. The plan is for me to grind out these 2 full-time jobs for me for the next 2 years. Essentially, that is the plan. I am going to invest as much as I possibly can during this 2-year timeline. And by the end of the 2 years, I am likely just going to call it done. If you're a channel member, you know what my fire number is that I'm aiming for. I really doubt that I'm going to be able to reach that number quite that high. But, you know, time is precious, you guys. Christopher and I are not getting any younger. We're just ready to start our lives together. This is no way for us to live married life, just traveling back and forth. I am going to be able to make loads of progress in the next 2 years if I keep working these 2 full-time jobs together. So there's that. I'm going to be a lot better off than I am today if I can keep this up. But I don't think I'm going to be able to quite hit that number I had in mind. So as far as working 2 full-time jobs goes, the plan is to basically for me to just grind it out for at least 1 year between working these 2 jobs. After that first year is up, I will have gotten the full amount of the sign-on bonus for this second job, which was $15,000. So, you know, all of that's going to investing, of course, too. Of course, after taxes, so it won't be quite $15,000, but y'all know. Every extra dollar I get is going to investing, basically. So after 1 year of me working 2 jobs, we're going to just assess where I'm at financially. We'll assess where the market is. We'll assess other things that are out of my control, like how well Rollo is doing, my Irish Wolfhound. He is 6 years old this year, and, you know, a year from now he's going to be 7. And fact of the matter is, the average lifespan for Irish Wolfhounds is 7. They're a giant breed dog. They have shorter lifespans than other breeds out there. That's why they call them heartbreak hounds. So, you know, Rollo is a factor, and I don't know what this house is going to sell for whenever I get around to actually selling it. I don't know how the market's going to be doing whenever I am really looking at pulling the plug and calling myself fire. So these are all of the things that can make this plan for fire change. But I do want to keep working these 2 full-time jobs for as long as I can stand it here, until I feel like I'm at a point where I can call myself financially independent enough such that I can make the move over to Sweden. So work itself is a variable that could change in this kind of 2-year timeline that I'm looking at. So after I work the 2 full-time jobs for a year, we'll assess where I'm at. I could at that point pull back to 1 full-time job if it's starting to be too much, but the goal for me, the actual goal, is to work these 2 full-time jobs for 2 years. And I did make a new color chart for marking this occasion. So I have 2 sheets of paper, essentially, that have calendars laid out on both sheets of paper for the next 2 years. And I want to keep track of the number of days that I have worked 2 full-time jobs. The goal is for me to keep this up for 2 years, so that's 730 days. If I can make it to June 24th, 2026, that's going to be officially 2 years of me working 2 full-time jobs. And at that point, I am most likely going to be at a place where I call myself fire. Again, that might not be the case depending on if the market's really struggling at that time, or maybe Rollo is not healthy enough to make the move over to Sweden. If he's not, then, I have the option of pulling back to just 1 full-time job and just keep working until, he passes on. But we'll just see how life is at that point. I have this goal to make it 2 years doing 2 jobs, and now mentally, I know, I can close my eyes and just visualize being at this house in Sweden in a couple of years, and that is motivation for me to keep going. So that's the plan. I'm going to try to work 2 full-time jobs for 2 years, likely, and then just call myself fire. Even if I don't quite make it to the number that I would ideally like to have, I think I will have enough to just call it done. But things that could affect this new plan for my fire are things that are out of my hand, like I mentioned. The market, what this house sells for, and Rollo. Also, work could change during this timeline. If you've been with me for a little while, then you know that my current job that I have, that I've been working for years, they have a new hospital that's opening up soon. It's supposed to open up this year, and I don't exactly know the date. And my ultrasound department that I work for, we have had no communication really as far as what their plan is for staffing the new hospital on 3rd shift. I suspect that they are planning on hiring people who will work during the day, but then take on-call hours at night, which means that my work schedule will not be affected. So if that's the case, that's fine. But if they try to open up this new hospital and have those of us that work at my facility kind of rotate through and do coverage there somehow, I'm not going to be able to do that now that I have a second job. And I have actually suggested some schedules for them for getting third shift covered at the new place. And I know that I've told you guys before that ideally I wanted a rotating schedule, a 7 on, 7 off type thing, so that when I took a week off of work, I could travel over to Sweden for 3 weeks at a time, because that's how it would work with my schedule, if they would approve it. But I sent in all these schedules, and I have been pushing for this for years now and just gotten minimal feedback about it, so I'm not really hopeful that they're going to actually do that. And now, even if they do want to do that for me, I don't think I would take it. I mean, I have these 2 full-time jobs now, and the plan is to just work both jobs for 2 years. 2 more years for a lifetime of time freedom is worth the grind for me, in my opinion. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there who would disagree, but I think I can do this, you guys. Maybe I am sorely wrong about this situation, and I mean, if so, you guys will know, because I'll, of course, talk about it on the channel. But I think that I can do this, and that's the plan. I would rather just do 2 full-time jobs, nose to the grindstone for 2 years and be done, versus stretching out my fire timeline now that we have this place in Sweden. So yeah, that's really how it has changed my perspective on my timeline for fire. If we had not found this property and gotten it, and my work came to me and said, hey, we're going to do that rotating schedule that you want, do you still want to do it? I probably would have jumped on it. But now that we have this place, I just want to get there as quickly as I possibly can. And if that means I got to grind for a couple years, if that means that my husband and I are going to see each other minimally for the next couple years, that's a sacrifice that we're willing to make, because honestly, we've already been making that sacrifice since we have been together. We started talking to each other during the middle of COVID. It was October 2020. And, you know, we could tell that we really liked each other, but it took 10 months for us to even meet in person because of the way COVID travel restrictions were during that time. And, you know, then our plan after that was, after we realized that, you know, it's me and him and we got married and everything, we thought he was going to immigrate over here to the US and just live here until I got to fire, and then we would decide where we wanted to be, whether it was here or Sweden or somewhere else. And then that plan also fell through. I mean, Christopher could immigrate here if he wanted to, but just financially for us, for the long term, the thing that made the most financial sense was for me to immigrate over to Sweden. So then we altered the plan to that. And my timeline for getting to Sweden was a lot longer than what it is now. Now that I actually have found this second job, it's really going to shorten things. And now that we have this place in Sweden that's going to be our forever home together, it's really shortened it. But we're both okay with that. I mean, we have spent enough time apart, really, already. We've spent enough time apart. So we're just ready to make this happen. And for my part, I'm going to work as hard as I can to save and invest as much as I possibly can over the next 2 years. And I do expect that that will be it for me. But, you know, there are variables, and I've mentioned them in this video. So, yeah. I know this video is going to be a really long one, but this is, I mean, huge life-changing news for us. So I had to share it with you guys. I hope that you are as excited for me as I am for this new house that we have. And yeah, stay tuned. I am starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel for my fire journey. And that's insane. It's insane to think that, because I started this channel in 2018 with a negative net worth of almost negative $70,000 or somewhere around there. And now here I am, a few years later, just staring fire in the face. So this is something that is doable. This is why I wanted to make this channel, to document my journey and show that it is possible to do, even if you got a later start in life. I am gonna be 39 this year, and I did not really learn all of this finance stuff until 2018 when I started this channel. So yeah, it's doable. It's not easy, but it's worth it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching if you've made it all the way to the end of this one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.